Title: Huge impact on self-esteem, painful sex affects Australians. 20% of women and 2% of men in Australia are affected by dyspareunia, or painful sex. Health professionals say that stigma surrounding sex and pleasure and a tendency to perceive pain as normal are obstacles to seeking help. Pain during sex can be experienced before, during, or after intercourse, and there are various causes. The problem is treatable, but the shame surrounding the topic often results in a lack of knowledge or willingness to talk about sexual problems. Addressing the confusion around painful sex is essential, as it has a considerable impact on one's self-esteem and relationships. Title: Tonga to build first wave power park in the Pacific. The Kingdom of Tonga is set to become the first Pacific country to experiment with a wave technology power park, which will generate enough power for close to 3,000 homes. Tonga is heavily dependent on expensive imported diesel fuels for power generation, and according to UK-based aggregate website Cable, the country's electricity is the 13th most expensive in the world. With the introduction of the deployment of renewable energy technologies, the park aims to generate 70% of Tonga's electricity from renewable sources by 2025 and cut emissions by 20%. The project will be delivered in 2 phases, with the first beginning later this year. Title: Former childcare worker found guilty of indecent touching of 4-year-old. A former childcare worker in Canberra, Muhammad Ali, 29, has been found guilty of indecently touching a 4-year-old boy at the daycare centre where he worked. Ali was charged with indecently touching 3 children, but was cleared of charges in relation to 1 child, and the jury was unable to reach a verdict on charges in relation to another child. The court heard that the boy had revealed the incident to his mother when she came to collect him. Ali's lawyer suggested that the child made up the allegation to minimize his own culpability for biting Ali, but the prosecutor maintained that Ali had a sexual interest in young children. How a DIY cancer test is saving lives and affording patients more privacy. A new self-collection method of cervical screening is helping more Queensland women get tested, especially those who have never had a screening before. The new option allows women to collect their own samples, providing more privacy and avoiding the embarrassment of being tested by a health worker. Moreover, the method has produced impressive results, with over 48% of women in the Torres and Cape Hospital and Health Service opting for self-collection. This approach is especially important since more than 70% of cervical cancers occur in unscreened women. Participating in regular screenings can save lives. Title: Conservation Group urges Federal Environment Minister to stop sand mine expansion near Minamurra River. The Friends of Minamurra River (FOMR), a conservation group in the Illawarra, is calling on Tanya Plibersek, the Federal Environment Minister, to use her powers to stop the expansion of a sand mine near the Minamurra River. The project, approved by the New South Wales Independent Planning Commission in November 2020, involves clearing 7.5 hectares of vegetation, including 38 threatened Bangalay sand forest trees bearing 100 hollows. FOMR has campaigned against the project for 5 years and was recently contacted by the federal department for its assessment. The group claims the project is environmentally destructive and puts critically endangered rainforest, coastal saltmarsh, and 6 fauna species at risk. Title: Pedophile cult leader granted bail for alleged breach of supervision orders. Self-proclaimed religious leader William Cam, also known as Little Pebble, has been granted bail in the New South Wales Supreme Court after facing charges for breaching his supervision orders for the 2nd time. Cam was accused of failing to abide by his supervision orders by deleting his browser history and uploading a prayer on a website. Defense barrister Peter Lang argued that fresh bail conditions can mitigate the risk of re-offending, including restricting Cam's use of mobile phones capable of accessing the Internet. Justice Peter Garling granted bail, citing the potential significant delay in resolving Cam's matter and the weak prosecution case. Cam is due to face the court on July 11. Notorious paedophile priest Gerald Ridsdale pleads guilty to fresh charge. Gerald Ridsdale, one of Australia's most prolific paedophile priests, has pleaded guilty to another charge relating to historical sex offences. Today, the Ballarat Magistrates Court heard that Ridsdale had molested a then 13-year-old boy at St Brigid's College in Horsham between 1987 and 1988. The victim survivor is the 72nd known victim of Ridsdale's abuse. The former priest has already admitted to offending over 70 minors between 1961 to 1988. Ridsdale is currently serving a near 40-year sentence and is expected to be eligible for parole in 2027 when he will be 93 years old. Title: SA Police announce circuit breaker to tackle anti-social behaviour in Adelaide CBD. South Australian Police have announced a new strategy to tackle the rise of antisocial behaviour and violence in Adelaide's CBD. The police presence on North Terrace will be significantly increased, with more foot patrols and mounted operations. The police will also seek to extend powers for Friday and Saturday nights to 7 days a week. Acting Police Commissioner Linda Williams said that officers will be supplemented by patrol officers on their days off and will work with government agencies to address the root cause of the issue. The police aim to create a vibrant and safe CBD for everyone. Title: Hobart's mental health facility closure leaves psychiatrists and patients fearful of the future. St Helens Private Hospital in Hobart has closed its doors, leaving patients and psychiatrists anxious about the future of mental health care in Tasmania. Healthscope, the owner of St Helens, cited the high cost of maintaining the heritage-listed facility as the reason for closure. With the facility's closure, patients like Chelbert, who was receiving treatment for bipolar disorder for 5 years, are uncertain about where they will get help in the future. Psychiatrists and patients alike are worried about the crisis the state's mental health services are already facing. The Tasmanian government is working to address the gaps in care and has opened a 3-bed mother-baby unit at the Royal Hobart Hospital, with other initiatives in the works. Title: Long-serving Victorian Labor MP Snappy Tom Roper dies aged 78. Tom Roper, a former Victorian Labor MP and a giant of the Victorian Labor Party, passed away at the age of 78. Roper served as a minister in the Kanan-Kerner governments and was known for his work as a fierce social justice advocate, a hard worker, a reformer, an early campaigner for climate action, a mentor, and a top bloke. He was most proud of his work in Aboriginal affairs, and in building the Monash Medical Centre. Roper was a champion for policy over politics, a reforming minister, and a mentor to his colleagues and staff. He will be missed. ACT government accuses federal coalition of trying to undermine territory rights over Calvary takeover. The ACT government has accused the federal coalition of trying to undermine territory rights over the proposed government takeover of one of Canberra's 2 public hospitals. The Queensland LNP Senator Matt Canavan's bill, which would compel the ACT government to hold an inquiry into the acquisition of Calvary Public Hospital, has been referred to a Senate committee for examination. The ACT government will take over the ownership and management of the hospital in Canberra's north from Calvary Health Care on July 3. Senator Canavan said this inquiry would have all the features of a direct inquiry into the takeover. Andrew Price and Jake Brown given 7-year sentences over killing of Jared Lovison. Andrew Price and Jake Brown have been sentenced to 7 years and 7.5 years in prison, respectively, for their involvement in the death of Jared Lovison in bushland north of Moe. The charges against them were downgraded to manslaughter, and they will be eligible for parole in less than 3 years. Lovison was taken at gunpoint and given a lethal dose of the drug GHB and left for dead in the bush. Samantha Guillemé, who lured Lovison to the remote location, was sentenced in February and is now eligible for parole. Prosecutors could not prove the pair meant for Lovison to die beyond reasonable doubt. Lab-grown chicken to make restaurant debut in U.S. Diners in the U.S. will soon be able to order chicken made without killing animals. The U.S. Agriculture Department has approved California-based firms Upside Foods and Good Meat to sell the meat, labeled as lab-grown or cell-cultivated. The chicken is grown in steel tanks, using cells that come from a living animal, a fertilized egg or a bank of stored cells. The cells are fed nutrients similar to what animals would eat. The resulting product is harvested from the tank and molded into shapes, such as a chicken fillet. The companies say the product will be available at select restaurants and supermarkets. Title: Study reveals immune system breakdown of astronauts in space. New research has shown that astronauts' immune system breaks down when they travel to space, making them more prone to infections. A study involving 14 astronauts found that gene expression in white blood cells, crucial to immunity, decreased when they reached space and then returned to normal after returning to Earth. The research offers insight into why astronauts are more susceptible to infectious diseases while in space and could help develop countermeasures. Astronauts' limited access to care and medication in space could pose problems if an infection or immune-related condition becomes severe. The study was published in the journal Frontiers in Immunology. Title: Northern Star Resources Fimiston Mill to expand output after $1.5 billion upgrade. Northern Star Resources has announced a $1.5 billion expansion plan for its Fimiston mill in the West Australian goldfields, which is set to double the mill's processing capacity from 13 million tonnes per year to 27 million tonnes. The mill is a subsidiary of Kalgoorlie Consolidated Gold Mines (KCGM) Super Pit, and the expansion is already underway, with completion scheduled for 2026. Northern Star is confident that the upgrade will facilitate its entry into the top 5 gold producers globally. The stockpile of about 120 million tonnes of pre-mined ore, holding nearly 3 million ounces of gold, will bolster the new mill. Mother and daughter hit by car in Adelaide CBD during school drop-off. A mother and her daughter were hit by a four-wheel drive in the Adelaide CBD during school drop-off. The mother was pinned under the car and suffered serious injuries, while the 6-year-old daughter suffered minor injuries. A witness to the incident said she heard screaming before realizing what had happened. The driver of the car, a 51-year-old man, was charged with aggravated driving without due care and will appear in court at a later date. St. Aloysius College, where the daughter is a student, offered counseling and support to students affected by the incident. Man charged over deaths of 2 teenage girls in New South Wales boat crash. A 73-year-old man has been charged with negligently operating a recreational vessel causing death after 2 teenage girls died in a boat crash in Lake Keepit, New South Wales. The girls, aged 13 and 14, were being towed behind a boat on an inflatable when they hit a tree stump at Rushes Creek on December 27, 2022. Despite members of the public performing CPR before paramedics arrived, the girls could not be revived. The man has been issued a court attendance notice to appear next month, and a report will be prepared for the coroner. Source: Title: Queensland stone installer fined $32,500 for silicosis-linked dust exposure. A Brisbane court has fined a Queensland stone installation company $32,500 for exposing workers to crystalline silica dust linked to deadly lung disease silicosis. Willis Bros Installations Pty Limited pleaded guilty to 2 charges after a supervisor instructed workers to cut a benchtop on site with an angle grinder, exposing employees and 2 other people to silica dust. The court heard that the company had policies against such work, and had since invested $1.3 million in safety equipment. The maximum penalty for each charge was $500,000. No convictions were recorded. Queensland Police struggling to monitor rising number of sex offenders, report suggests. A report by Queensland's Crime and Corruption Commission (CCC) has revealed that the state's police are finding it challenging to keep an eye on the rising number of sex offenders on the Child Protection Register. The report found that the volume of these offenders continues to increase by at least 100 every year, with 3,163 sex offenders required to report to the police across the state last year. The CCC's findings showed that the police's workload posed a significant challenge, with some middle to low-risk offenders' proactive visits taking years to complete. The report made 23 recommendations, including increasing the scope for judicial discretion and independent research on the scheme's overall protective impact. Police continue Melbourne manhunt for alleged carjackers who remain armed and on the run. Victoria Police are continuing their search for two young males who remain on the run in Melbourne's CBD after allegedly being involved in multiple carjackings and an aggravated burglary. The suspects are believed to be armed with unknown weapons that are not firearms. The pair is known to police, with one believed to be aged under 18 and the other in his early 20s. During the incident, the stolen vehicles driven by the offenders collided with numerous civilian and police vehicles. Police have urged the public to maintain vigilance while out in the city and on the roads. Title: New Zealand debates ethnicity's role in surgery waitlists. New Zealand's algorithmic surgery waitlist tool has sparked debate over its use of ethnicity to determine priority. The algorithm considers factors like wait time, financial circumstances, and where patients are located, but it also prioritizes Indigenous Maori and Pacific Island patients over white and other ethnicities. Prime Minister Chris Hipkins stated that the tool aims to address discrimination against disadvantaged communities in the healthcare system. However, conservative opposition parties have opposed the move, claiming that it is race-based. Health Minister Aisha Verrall believes the tool will help address existing inequalities but is disappointed in the tone of the debate. India, US set to deepen defense ties as Modi meets Biden in the White House. US President Joe Biden and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi are set to deepen their country's defense and technology cooperation during Modi's visit to the White House. The visit aims to bolster military and trade connections between the two countries, with the US looking to India as a key partner in the Indo-Pacific region. Despite concerns about human rights in India, US companies are welcoming Mr. Modi warmly, with business agreements in artificial intelligence and quantum computing expected during the visit. The leaders are also expected to discuss Russia and Ukraine ahead of the G20 summit later this year. Dutton calls for voice referendum to be abandoned if government isn't confident of success. Opposition leader Peter Dutton has urged the federal government to abandon the Voice to Parliament referendum if it has doubts about the success of the Yes campaign. Dutton warned that the failure of the referendum could harm reconciliation and accused the government of misleading the public. The referendum is expected to be held later this year, but the coalition has campaigned against it, calling instead for constitutional recognition of Indigenous Australians without a constitutionally enshrined voice. Dutton argued that if there is a chance the vote might fail, the referendum should not proceed. OceanGate confirms deaths of 5 passengers on missing Titanic submersible. OceanGate, the company that launched the submersible missing near the Titanic wreck off the coast of North America, has confirmed that all on board have died. The 5 passengers were part of a private expedition to explore the famous shipwreck. The submersible, which had gone missing earlier this week, was found at a depth of 3,800 meters. The cause of the accident is still unknown. The company has expressed its condolences to the families of the deceased and is working with authorities to investigate the incident.